I should never have stopped at that motel, because by morning, I had already been written down as someone who never checked out, but at the time I didn't feel like I had a choice. I had been driving for more than 10 hours. It was late. The highway was almost empty. Every few minutes a pair of headlights would appear in the opposite lane, pass me, and disappear into the dark behind me. Other than that, there was nothing. Just black desert on both sides of the road. At some point I realized I couldn't remember the last few miles. That scared me. So I decided the next place I saw I would stop. A few minutes later I saw an old neon sign glowing on the right side of the highway. Vacancy. Some of the letters were burned out. The others flickered weakly, like they were barely holding on. I slowed down. There was an exit right after it. No town name, no gas station signs. Just a narrow road leading away from the highway. I took it. The motel sat about a quarter mile from the road. The closer I got, the worse it looked. It had two long buildings facing the parking lot, old doors in a row, a second floor walkway, faded paint, cracked asphalt. It looked like the kind of place that had been built in the 60s or 70s and never changed after that. But the age wasn't what bothered me. It was the parking lot. It was completely empty. Not one car. Not one. No guests. No employees. Nothing. I sat there for a few seconds with the engine running, thinking I should turn around. Then I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. I was exhausted, so I parked near the office and went inside. A dull yellow light was on behind the front window. The office smelled like old paper, dust, and cigarette smoke. Behind the counter sat a thin man who looked about 60, maybe older. He had pale skin, gray hair, and wire-frame glasses. He was reading an old magazine, not scrolling on a phone, not using a computer, just sitting there, reading like I had walked into a place from another decade. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how I was doing. He didn't even seem surprised to see me. After a few seconds, he finally looked up. "One night?" he asked. His voice was flat, tired. I nodded. "Yeah, just one night." He reached under the counter and placed a key in front of me. A real metal key, not a card. It had a faded plastic tag attached to it. Room 23. I reached for my wallet, but he raised one hand. "You can pay in the morning." I stopped. "What?" "Pay in the morning," he said. That felt wrong. Motels don't usually work like that, especially not old roadside motels in the middle of nowhere. But I was too tired to argue. I picked up the key. Before I left, I noticed a small sign hanging behind the counter. It had the usual rules. Check out, 11 a.m., no smoking, no pets. But underneath in different paint, someone had written, "Keep curtains closed after midnight." I looked at the sign for a second too long. The man behind the counter noticed. For the first time he smiled. Not warmly, not kindly. Just enough to show that he knew exactly what I was looking at. "Old rule," he said. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. So I left. Room 23 was on the second floor, near the end of the building. The walkway carpet was old and worn down, but not filthy, just old. That was the strange thing about the whole place. It didn't look abandoned. It didn't even look dirty. It looked maintained by someone who didn't care about making it modern, only keeping it exactly the same. The door to room 23 stuck when I turned the key. For a second, I thought it wouldn't open. Then the lock clicked. I stepped inside. The room looked normal. Old, but normal. A bed, a small table, A boxy television, a bathroom near the entrance, a mirror mounted on the wall. The air smelled faintly like dust and old cleaning products. I turned on the light. The bulb flickered. For 1 second, the entire room went dark, and in that second, I saw movement in the mirror. Something passed behind me. I turned around fast. Nothing. The room was empty. I stood there for a moment, listening. No sound, no movement. I told myself I was tired. That was all. I locked the door, checked the deadbolt, then checked it again. I sat on the bed. The mattress creaked under me, and that's when I heard it. A footstep above me. I froze. Then came another. Slow, careful, directly over my head. At first, I thought maybe there was a third floor. Some motels have weird layouts. So I went outside and looked up. There was nothing above my room except the roof. No third floor. No attic windows. Nothing. I stood there on the walkway, staring up into the dark. The night was completely still. Then I went back inside. The second I shut the door, the footsteps started again. One step, then another. Back and forth across the ceiling. They weren't heavy. That was the worst part. They didn't sound like a person walking. They were too light, too careful, like something was trying not to be heard. I turned on the TV just to have some noise in the room. The screen lit up with static. No picture, no channel, just black and white noise. Then I heard a voice under the static. At first I thought it was part of some weak signal, but the screen didn't change. There was no station, just static. I turned the volume up. The voice became clearer. Very quiet. Very far away. He's inside. I stared at the television. The voice repeated. He's inside. I turned it off. The room fell silent again. Then the room phone rang. The sound nearly made me jump. I stared at it for a second before picking it up. Hello? Nothing. Only static. Then a man's voice. Very quiet. Very far away. I'm sorry. The line went dead. I slowly lowered the receiver back into its cradle. Trying to distract myself, I started looking around the room. That's when I noticed an old black and white photograph hanging above the desk. It showed the motel decades earlier. The parking lot was full. Families, travelers, children, people standing outside their rooms. Then I noticed a man near the center of the picture. Something about him felt familiar. I stepped closer. My stomach tightened. The man looked exactly like me. Same height, same build, same posture. I told myself it was a coincidence, but I couldn't stop staring at him, because it felt like he was staring back. The footsteps above me never stopped. Now they had moved. They weren't above me anymore. They were near the wall that connected my room to the room next door. I stood up slowly, walked over, pressed my ear against it, and heard something drag across the other side, slowly, like fingernails moving over wallpaper. I stepped back. There had to be someone in the next room, but the parking lot had been empty. No cars, no people, nothing. I grabbed my key and went outside. The walkway was dim and quiet. Every door was closed. Every window was dark. I walked to the room next to mine, room 22. I stood there for a second, then knocked. No answer. I knocked again, still nothing. I was about to leave when I heard a floorboard creak right behind the door. Someone was standing there, only a few feet away. I could feel it. Then the door moved. Not open, just shifted slightly in the frame, like someone on the other side had leaned against it. I backed away. The peephole was pointed directly at me. and I had the sudden horrible feeling that someone had been watching me the whole time. I went back to my room and locked the door. I knew I wasn't going to sleep. Still, I tried to convince myself there was a normal explanation. Old building, thin walls, bad wiring. Maybe another guest had arrived after me. Maybe their car was parked somewhere I hadn't seen. Maybe the TV had picked up some weird signal. I was tired enough to believe almost anything. I decided to take a shower. Hot water usually helped after a long drive. I didn't fill the tub. I don't trust motel bathtubs. I just turned on the shower and stood under the water. For a few minutes I actually started to calm down. The sound of the water drowned everything out. The footsteps, the static, the silence. Then I heard something from the room. A creak. I froze, listened. The shower was still running, so I told myself it was just the pipes. Then I heard it again. Closer. Not outside. Not in the wall. Inside the room. I shut off the water. The bathroom went quiet. Then came another creak. I grabbed a towel and opened the bathroom door. The room door was open. Not wide. Only a few inches. But enough. I remembered locking it. I remembered checking the deadbolt. Twice. I walked toward it slowly. The hallway outside was dark, empty. I pushed the door open and looked out. No one. The walkway was silent. I stepped back into the room. That's when I saw the mirror. My reflection was standing there. And behind my reflection, someone else was in the room. I spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. I looked back at the mirror. Only me. Then I heard breathing, right beside me. Close enough that I felt it before I understood what it was. I backed away fast and went into the bathroom. I locked the door and stood there, barely breathing. For a long time, nothing happened. No footsteps. No scratching. No breathing. Eventually, I forced myself to come out. The room was colder now. Not cool. Cold. Like the heat had been pulled out of it. I looked toward the window. The curtains were still closed. And suddenly I remembered the sign in the office. Keep curtains closed after midnight. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed proof. Maybe I wanted one normal thing to hold on to. I walked to the window and pulled the curtain back just enough to look outside. The parking lot was no longer empty. It was full. Cars filled every space. Old cars. Rusted cars. Cars that looked like they had been sitting in the desert for decades. And between them stood people. Dozens of them. Men. Women. Children. All completely still. All facing the motel. All staring up at my room. No one waved. No one spoke. No one moved. They just watched. Then one of them stepped forward. A man near the center of the lot. He walked slowly toward the building. One step at a time, never taking his eyes off my window. I didn't want to keep looking, but I couldn't move. As he got closer, I realized something that made my stomach turn. I recognized him. Not from the office, not from the hallway, from somewhere worse. He looked like me, same height, same build, same clothes, same face. It was like watching myself walk across that parking lot. I dropped the curtain and stumbled backward. A second later, someone knocked on the door. Once, softly. I didn't move. The knock came again. Then a voice said, "Open up." The voice was calm, familiar. I moved toward the door as quietly as I could and looked through the peephole. The motel clerk was standing outside, smiling, but he looked different now. Paler, older, like years had passed since I checked in. "I forgot to mention something," he said. I didn't open the door. "What?" "We have rules here." I said nothing. He leaned closer to the peephole. "After midnight, you don't open the door." My hand tightened around the deadbolt. Why? His smile didn't change. He glanced down the walkway like he was checking if anyone else was listening. Then he whispered, "Not everyone leaves in the morning." He stood there for another moment, then walked away. A few minutes later, all the lights went out. The lamp, the TV, the bathroom light. Even the dull neon glow outside vanished. The room fell into complete darkness. At first, I thought the power had gone out. The building was old. The wiring was probably worse, but the darkness felt wrong. It felt thick, heavy, like the room had gotten smaller. I reached for my phone. The screen wouldn't turn on. The battery had been almost full. Now it was dead. Then I heard footsteps outside. Not one set, many. They moved along the walkway, slowly, back and forth, stopping outside my door. Then something touched the wood. A soft scraping sound, fingers sliding across the door. Then more fingers, all over it, small taps, gentle scratches. Someone tried the handle. Slowly. The metal turned as far as it could, then stopped against the lock. I sat on the bed staring at the door in the dark. I knew if it opened, there was nothing I could do. Then a voice spoke from the other side. My voice. "Open the door." I stopped breathing. The voice came again. "I know you're in there." It laughed softly, then whispered, "You belong here." I stayed on that bed until morning. At some point, the room simply became lighter. The power came back. The air conditioner started humming again. The parking lot outside was empty. No cars, no people, nothing. I grabbed my bag and left. I went straight to the office. The door was open. Inside, no one was behind the counter. The old magazine was still there. Next to it was a large guest ledger. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe because I needed some kind of proof. The pages were filled with names, dates, and room numbers. Some names had been crossed out, others hadn't. I flipped through until I found room 23. And there it was. My name. My full name. Spelled perfectly. I had never told the clerk my name. I had never shown him my license. I had never paid. But my name was already there. Beside today's date. And next to it, written in small, neat handwriting, were 4 words. Did not check out. I stared at the page. Then I heard a floorboard creak behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I closed the ledger, walked out of the office, got in my car, and drove away. I never looked back. A few weeks later, curiosity got the better of me. Eventually, I found an old newspaper article. The motel had burned down more than 20 years earlier. Several guests died in the fire. Most of them had been staying on the 2nd floor. One of them was in room 23. There was a small photograph beside the article. When I saw the man's face, I closed my laptop. Because it was him. The man from the parking lot. The man from the photograph in my room. The man who looked exactly like me. According to the article, he died before I was even born. That was years ago. I don't stop at a roadside motels anymore. Ever. Not even when I'm exhausted. Not even when the highway starts to blur, and I know I should pull over. Because sometimes, late at night, when the road is empty, my GPS stops working. The map disappears. Only one destination remains, the motel. And underneath it, the same message every time. You have arrived. And for just a second, I see it ahead of me. The old neon sign, the 2nd floor walkway, the parking lot full of dead cars, and all those people standing between them, watching, waiting. One of them always stands closest to room 23. One of them always looks directly at me, and every time, I know exactly who it is. It's me. And he smiles like he's waiting for the night I finally stop driving and come back home. If you've made it this far, you're ready for the next story. It's already waiting on the channel.